Hey, what's going on guys? It's Andy the Mad Tatter and welcome back to the channel. Indeed, welcome if it is your first time joining us here as well. This video is going to be part 1 of November's sales roundup, covering the 1st to the 15th of November 2019. But first, I just wanted to say thank you so much for your continued support with the channel. I've said this on a few occasions in the past and it never ceases to amaze me exactly how much support I do get from you guys out there. Considering I don't really go around actively promoting the channel or anything like that, I'm not on any social media pushing the channel or anything. I just really appreciate however you found me. I'm glad that you do. I'm glad that you did, and I'm glad that you continue to watch. At the time I actually made this PowerPoint presentation for the roundup, I was on 696 subscribers, but as of this morning, I actually tipped over 700 subscribers, so absolutely thrilled with that one, guys. Thank you so much. I've had over 15,000 total views on my videos as well now, which again is an incredible number and something that was not even within the realms of my imagination when I began doing this. I never thought I'd be in any kind of those numbers at all. So thank you all so much, and I want to keep growing this channel now. I've got big plans for it and stuff moving forward, which I'll be able to go into very soon. Also, I wanted to give a massive shout out to a new reseller, who is a new reseller in general, and also a new reseller on YouTube. Beginner Reselling is the name of the channel. They actually contacted me and said that I had inspired them to start having a go at reselling, and also to start kind of chronicling it on YouTube. So that is, to me, that's an amazing thing. That's an amazing feeling. Because when I set out doing this, I did set out with the hope that I would be able to help people. And help people sort of take control of their own ability to make their own income free of any kind of encumbrances from any other companies or anything like that. So yeah, it's amazing that somebody's actually reached out and said, yeah, I'm kind of having a go at this because of you. The channel's very small and the channel's very new. As you can see on the screen, there's 5 subscribers, 1 video at the moment. Not been on there this morning and seeing if that's changed, but that's what they were on at the point I made this video. And yeah. They're using a very similar format to me, to the sales roundup videos, which I'm absolutely fine with. If anybody wants to do sales roundup videos in the same way that I do them, go for it, by all means. I don't think it's the best way in the world, but you know, it works for me. If it works for you too, happy days. So yeah, it'd be great if you could go over and give Beginner Reselling a bit of love, and you know, some support over there as well, as you have done with me. So let us get on to the things. Starting on the 1st of November 2019, we've got the Pentax Espio 140 35mm compact camera. There are a lot of compact cameras out there, 35mm cameras, that make considerable amounts of money. Off the top of my head, the Olympus MJU2 is probably one of the highest value sort of 35mm compact cameras like this. When we say a 35mm, that's a traditional sort of spool of film type of camera, as opposed to a digital camera or like an instant camera like a Polaroid or something. There are, as I say, there are some out there that command really high prices. The MJU2 there, I think sometimes people call it the Muji. That is in the hundreds of pounds that sells for as a rule, and it's down to the fact that it's got a very, very good lens and a very, very good aperture to it as well. But there are other cameras out there that sort of follow, you know, follow suit, but at a lesser price point. These are a great example that I've just sort of hit onto completely by accident, really. I'm quite interested in cameras. I'm not interested in photography particularly. I know that sounds a bit odd, but I'm very interested in things with moving parts and kind of small moving parts, mechanical parts, electronic parts, things like that. So cameras kind of interest me on that level. And of course, you can make a bit of money out of them as well. Unless, of course, you then have your wallet stolen after you sold a load of them. But that's, yeah, we've been over that one already. So, the Pentax Espio 140, this one is quite popular with the lomography school of photography. Now, I'm not going to go into it in too much detail on the video, but if you sell cameras or are thinking about selling cameras, definitely look up lomography. That's L-O-M-O graphy. It's a particular movement of photography, and they rely a lot on older cameras, older technology to achieve the results that they do. Definitely look into that, look at the sort of cameras that people are using. It's a very kind of It's a very rapidly growing movement of photography from what I've found, and there's a lot of people getting into it now. Actually, I think off the back of Instagram and things like that, it's kind of grown a little bit on there, and then it's sort of come out into the real world a bit as well. So that's a very growing movement of photography, and if you're selling these types of cameras, it's always worth looking up whether they are considered sort of a good lomography camera, because, like I say, that will generally sell them for you. So this one cost me £3, sold for £44.94, which was £39.99 plus £4.95 shipping that I charged the buyer. Obviously, once the shipping's paid to me, it's paid straight back out again. So the total profit for that item was £33.64 after shipping and fees. Sticking with... For some reason I can't click on what's going on here. Oh, there we go. Sticking with the 1st of November, this is the Samsung BN 962665-2A IR blaster. This is essentially a range extender for remote controls on Samsung smart TVs. Plugs into the TV, and I'm not sure if it's by virtue of signal strength or if it's just by virtue of the fact that it's got like a 2-meter cable attached to it that you get the extra range on your remote control. But either way, that's what it's for. This was bought in part of a large bundle of cables. If you've been with the channel for a while, you'll know that I'm really into buying big bundles of cables and chargers and things like that. They're not things that sell rapidly necessarily, but they do tend to sell regularly. You will always only generally sell them when people need them, but having them there when people do need them, you'll sell them quite quickly. So this one, as part of the bundle that it came in, worked out to have cost 75p on its own. Sold for £11.94, made £7.30 after shipping and fees on that one, and it went on the global shipping programme to Italy. I'm not having a good time technically today. Come on, there's a chap. Sticking with the 1st of November, the Slendertone Flex Max Ab Training Belt. I will generally always pick these up if I see them at a reasonable price or a price that I know that I can make a profit on. They do generally sell quite quickly. They are pretty much... I don't know whether they still are necessarily, because I'm not really in tune with the sort of fitness scene particularly, but they were for a very long time certainly the market leader in these kind of electronic abdominal training belts. And sort of toning belts and things like that. So Slendertone are a good name to look out for, certainly in these types of things. I did pay up on this one by the usual standards that I picked these up for. I generally try to pick them up for between a £5 and a £10 if I can. However, this one was £15. It sold for £44.94 quite soon after listing. I seem to think it was on for maybe a week or just over, so it sold quite quickly, that one. Always make sure if you're buying things like this that it's a good ready-to-go pack. So, for instance, if it's got, they have a conductive pad that sticks on the belt, and then that provides the sort of conductivity and the barrier also between the skin and the electrode on the belt. Those have to be replaced over time. And quite often what you'll find with second-hand examples, you'll find that they've got old pads stuck on there and they don't necessarily have replacement pads in the pack. Replacement pads, of course, will help sell the item so much more easily because it's ready to go for people, it's ready to use. In the case of this one, it came with replacement pads. I think it actually came with 2 packs of replacement pads, looking at that there. I didn't put it in the title, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it came with 2 packs of replacement pads, and it also had old pads already stuck on the belt. Now, I took the old pads off straight away because they do become sort of a bit of a sticky gelatinous mess after a while. So I took the old pads off straight away, cleaned the belt up, and I supplied it without any pads actually fitted, but brand new pads there ready to go. And that was all in the box when I bought it, which is why I didn't really mind paying that little bit more for it. So it cost £15, sold for £44.94 and made £19.01 after shipping and fees on that one. 2nd of November, this is the Sony memory stick, MSA128A. This is a 128 megabyte memory stick. There are possibly people viewing this video that weren't even alive when megabytes were a thing, which is quite a scary thing to think about. But a megabyte is essentially a 100th of a gigabyte, isn't it? Yeah, 100. Is it 1,000th? Is it 1,000? Yeah, 1,000 megabytes to a gigabyte, isn't it? Yeah, 1,000 megabytes to a gigabyte. So it's a 1,000th of a gigabyte, essentially. But in its time, this was considered quite a high capacity stick. Quite a high capacity storage stick. And also the Sony memory stick was a relatively... It was short-lived in terms of, I think, the life that they actually produced it for, but they produced it for a huge number of different applications. So music players, cameras, phones, laptops, pretty much everything that Sony made throughout the period that this memory stick was a relevant thing, used the memory stick in some capacity or another. They also made the memory stick Pro a little bit later, which goes up to, I think, 2 gigabytes in capacity. That's when they started to get a bit heavier on there. And there's also there are also some that don't have the Magic Gate. So if you look at this one here, you can't make it out on the camera, but that in the bottom right hand corner there says Magic Gate, and that is essentially Sony's kind of sort of copy protection software, I guess you'd call it. So there's some that don't have the Magic Gate on there as well, so they're kind of I don't know whether they're faster to write to or quicker to read from, something along those sort of lines. But anyway, those are a broad sort of strokes of the differences in those. They do still sell, certainly, and this one came to me as a part of a bundle with a Sony camcorder, not a camcorder, beg your pardon, a digital camera. I've got the digital camera listed, and it had another memory card with it as well, so the digital camera that's listed is bundled with a memory card, and I'm also selling this separate memory card. So the camera bundle altogether that I purchased cost £4 for the camera, the 2 memory cards, the charger, etc. So I just split this off from that, so this just became a £2 component of that bundle. It sold for $14.99, made $8.79 after shipping and fees. Nice easy little thing to ship as well, because it was in its own hard case, so it pretty much just needed to go in a bubble envelope and it was ready to go. So that was kind of a little bonus that came out of purchasing another bundle that I wasn't really expecting. I thought it looked like it was a complete camera bundle. It was only when I started rooting through all the pouches in the little bag that came with it that I found another memory stick, so that was kind of a little bonus in that sense. 2nd of November, this is kind of another similar sort of story in a way. This is the AKG SA41/1 microphone clip. I bought a huge bundle of stuff, was it last year? No, it was this year. It was just very early on this year. And I've sold pretty much everything out of this bundle of stuff that I got. It worked out at between 50 and 65p an item by the time I'd broken it all down into individual prices. I've been well into profit on that bundle for a long time, and occasionally, small things like this still keep dripping out, which make, extra profit on the side, and, it just makes it a much more... an even better deal than it was in the first place. Sorry, I'm struggling for words a bit today, which is unlike me. But yeah, it made it an even better deal than it, has been so far. So in the bundle, there was a microphone stand. Now, I was lead singer in a rock band for about 6 years, so I've been kind of around this type of world, live performance equipment, microphones, mic stands, all the kind of cabling, mixers, all of that sort of thing. I wouldn't ever class myself as an expert on these types of things, but certainly as a singer, I was kind of always attached to a mic stand and a microphone. So I'm very familiar with good brands of microphone and good brands of audio equipment in general. This mic stand that was in the bundle that I'm referring to was all crusty and rusted, and the mic stand itself wasn't anything particularly special from what I could tell. But I did notice that it had this clip on the top of it. Now, AKG are... Oops, sorry, knocking the camera. AKG make... microphones, headphones, generally speaking, most audio equipment, in actual fact, mixing desks and stuff like that as well. And they are considered as a reasonably high-end manufacturer in those fields. They do make some more kind of mass market stuff as well, but for the most part, they are, in terms of professional audio stuff, they are quite a high-end brand. So I thought I'll look this up and just see, because there are people in the world of sort of music and recording and things like that who are very particular about what gear they use. While any mic clip would quite easily hold their microphone on its mic stand, if they've got an AKG microphone, they want to have an AKG clip to put it in. Some people are just like that, and that's fair enough. No criticism of people like that whatsoever, but I think that's why things like this, which is essentially a fairly generic thing just with a good brand on it, sells. So this one cost 50p. Is the way it worked out, the long and short of it. Sold for $24.94. Could not believe that I got 20 quid for that, but I looked it up, sold on eBay. There were sold examples on eBay, so this wasn't just a price that I pulled out of thin air. There were sold examples of this to go off, so I went for $19.99, with obviously the £4 postage on that one. And that sold for $24.94, made $16.73 after shipping and fees, and received positive feedback from the buyer as well. Still having fun with this. 3rd of November, Homby 1994 8th edition track plans. So Homby, big manufacturer of model railway stuff, but also a lot of different models, scale models, die-cast models, things like that. I think the brand owns Meccano these days, or did own Meccano, and now they've been bought by somebody else, but there's definitely some tie to Meccano there. They also Tonka and things like that as well, they've had involvements with over the years. So Homby are a big model manufacturing company. This came again as part of a bundle. You may have seen a couple of months ago. It may have even been longer than that, to be fair, where I sold at one point an unbuilt model, Hornby model of a engine shed. And in the box for that there was a catalogue, which I've since sold as well, and also these track plans. So not only have I sold the actual model itself in the box, I've sold the catalogue that came with it and made, I think from memory, about a $5 or a $10 on the catalogue. But I've also sold these track plans. Now these are released, or were released yearly, I think, by Hornby, and they did different runs throughout the year. So as you can see, this is the 8th edition for 1994, and purely by chance and looking into these things, this one is actually quite a reasonably rare one out of these types of things. And I'd found sold examples on eBay that had gone for reasonable money. I'd also found sold examples, I think, elsewhere. I think I did Google these and had a look at them and seen that they'd sold on some other platform. So yeah, I knew that they would sell. It sat for a while, don't get me wrong. That's been sat for probably 9 to 12 months now. But ultimately what it worked out as, it cost £1. It sold for $18.99 and made $12.34 after shipping and fees. So again, that was kind of another little bonus find. I've just realised that there's already early on in this video, there's quite a few things I've sold that have just been little bonus finds in other buys that I've made. So yeah, happy days. 3rd of November, ladies Tommy Hilfiger Neo Flair jeans. Yeah, I don't really need to introduce Tommy Hilfiger. Everybody knows Tommy Hilfiger, I think, certainly, if you're of my kind of generation. But yeah, these cost £5. They sold for $34.94. Been doing okay with other brands of jeans, actually. Normally between my store, it's quite often either Levi's leading the way or Diesel leading the way, and they kind of tend to swap and change. But just lately, I seem to have been doing reasonably well across the board with a lot of different brands of jeans as well. I'll always look out for quality jeans, and ones that, even if I don't necessarily know straight away, if I'm looking at them in a shop or something like that, and I don't necessarily know straight away if they're genuine or not, I've got to the point now where I have a pretty good feeling for the quality. And I've said this in other videos before, once you start to recognise quality, you'll feel it in everything that you pick up, and you'll get a bit of an inkling straight away. It's like almost like a sort of sixth sense or a spidey sense. You'll get an inkling straight away of whether, yeah, this is genuine or this isn't, or this might be genuine or this might not be genuine. So I kind of, there's a lot of instinct there, which is kind of followed up with research sometimes, because I've got to that point where I've got that little bit more confident with things like that now. As it happens with these, I was in no doubt when I purchased these in the shop that they were genuine. All the tags and everything were correct, and all the details on the tags and the stitching and everything was spot on. So I knew that these were definitely a genuine pair. They cost £5, sold for $34.94, made £20.26 after shipping and fees. They went on the global shipping program to Germany, so Dankeschön Germany. They buy a lot of stuff from me in Germany, and I'm more than happy to keep sending it. And I've had positive feedback from the buyer on those as well. 4th of November, Deadpool Blu-ray. Just an old one that was knocking around the house, to be quite honest. I had a very, very brief dalliance with Blu-rays. I've got about 9 million DVDs in the house that are kind of ones that I've purchased over the years and stuff to play DVDs on, but I had a bit of a dalliance in Blu-ray. And for the level that I appreciate films and stuff on, there wasn't enough of a difference between DVD and Blu-ray. I appreciate a good story and good acting and stuff like that, and things like the effects and the fidelity of the picture and stuff. It's not massively, it's not high up there on the list of important features for me. So, yeah, I've got a couple of Blu-rays listed that are just kind of ones that we've had around, and I never bought loads of them. So this was just one that's been given to the business free of charge, hence it has no cost price to the business. It sold for $6.94, made $3.26 after shipping and fees, and received positive feedback from the buyer on that one as well. 5th of November, another one of my own items. Again, as I said before, I was in a rock band for quite a few years, and this got a reasonable amount of wear when I was frontman of a rock band, but it was originally bought because I was going to a wedding, and I just wanted to wear something different, because at the time I was managing jewellers' shops, and I was in a suit every day, and I just didn't want to go to a wedding wearing a different suit, so I wanted to wear something completely different. So I hired a kilt for that wedding in spite of having no sort of Scottish ancestry or link to Scotland or anything like that, and it wasn't even a Scottish wedding. I just hired kind of an understated kilt set up and just thought it's just something different to wear. So after that I kind of got a bit of a flavour for it, to be honest with you. This was in my sort of early 20s when I was hanging around a lot of sort of rock bars and stuff like that as well. So I bought my own, and they are, when you go and buy these things and have them professionally tailored and professionally made, they cost a fortune. I actually couldn't remember how much I'd paid for this at the time, because like I say, it was quite a few years ago now. But I went back to the company that I bought it from and had a look on their website to see what they were selling them for. And this kilt setup that I've got here would have cost me around about £270 to £300 when I bought it. So clearly at the time I had a little bit more money than sense as well, but I suppose that's what being in management in your early 20s kind of does to you. So yeah, this was an owned item again that was donated to the business. This is a men's tailor-made 8-yard kilt with accessories, so it's got the leather sporran there and the leather belt as well, which kind of couldn't get around the waist of the mannequin there, because I was quite a large chap at one point. So yeah, couldn't get it around the waist of the mannequin. It was miles too big, so it just had to kind of go over like a bandolier. So yeah, it looks okay, I guess. So yeah, this was an owned item. It sold for £158.94 altogether. Now, it did go by Parcel Force 48. Now, I didn't want to take the mick and charge the full Parcel Force 48 rate to the buyer on this one, which would have been £16.95. So I charged £8.95 postage on it and just kind of met the buyer halfway in terms of that. So that's why there's a reasonable gulf between there and there straight away, because the postage will always come off this number, but because additional postage was paid as well by, you know, just out of the profit, that's why there's quite a big gulf between the two on that one. So this sold for £158.94, made £121.82 after shipping and fees, and it wasn't even something that fit me anymore, because I've lost quite a lot of weight as I've got older, so I'd probably get myself in it twice these days, that one. So it wasn't something that I was too sentimental about hanging on to. 5th of November still, Levi's 714 ladies straight leg jeans. Again, Levi's been doing quite well for me. These were $4.75 charity shop pickup, and they sold for $44.94. Made $29.20 after shipping and fees on those. 5th of November still. This is the Metamec Vintage Repro Carriage clock. This was sort of a bit of a duff buy in a way for me. I mean, it's sold and it's done okay in terms of profit, but I didn't really like it that much when I actually got it home. I went on a bit of a frenzied buy of just buying a lot of different kind of vintage things and stuff like that. And I think I got so blinded by different vintage things that I ended up picking this up thinking it was probably a vintage or certainly a nicer quality reproduction. Got it home and actually, yeah, it is a reproduction, but it didn't feel necessarily the best quality in the world. I think the thing that let it down most for me, and I think it's something that you would only notice in these circumstances, was when I took it all apart to clean it. I took these two pieces off the top and bottom, these marble pieces here, and it wasn't marble or even anything vaguely resembling marble or onyx or anything like that. It was basically just Perspex coloured, so it was just kind of plastic. But it kind of looked okay on the clock, I guess, and, you know, I think my own disappointment in it isn't something that necessarily a buyer would pick up on. So they might look at it and think, oh yeah, that's lovely, that's exactly what I want. And obviously somebody did, so fair play to them. So yeah, it cost £5. This one sold for $33.94 and made $19.66 after shipping and fees. 6th of November, no sales, so on to the 7th of November. Sold the Black & Decker Dustbuster Pivot Auto Vac. This is a car vacuum cleaner, and it's specifically a car vacuum cleaner because it only has the cigarette lighter plug attachment on the end of it, rather than any sort of wall adapter or AC adapter or anything like that. So it's definitely for cars. So I made sure to mention things in the description, like, perfect for sort of Uber drivers or chauffeurs, things like that. And yeah, sold relatively... No, did it sell quickly, this one, or not? Probably about average, to be fair. Probably about a month, I think this one took to sell. It did get a lot of watchers, actually, in fairness. There were a lot of people watching this before it sold, so it was, I guess it was kind of good for visibility's sake in the shop as well. Cost £5, sold for £38.94, made £15.74 after shipping and fees, and have subsequently had positive feedback from the buyer as well. 8th of November. Borders Cotton Tote shopping bag. Now, this was kind of something that, between Jo, my wife, and I, we found this in the house, and we kind of had a little bit of a bet with ourselves between ourselves of, could we sell this? Is this something that we would actually sell? And we were both sort of questioning it, to be fair. It was like, we'll stick it on eBay and see anyway, but, you know, will it or won't it sell? And it did, and it sold quite quickly as well. So this is the Borders Cotton Tote bag. Borders were a bookstore based in the US. They came over to the UK and Europe as well. And certainly in the UK iteration of Borders, they quite often had a Starbucks in them as well, so they were kind of a coffee and books sort of thing. And I think that was probably the first mass market exposure to that kind of experience UK shoppers had had. I think there's certainly independent bookstores and stuff maybe doing similar things, but in terms of the mass market, I think this was kind of our first exposure to this type of culture. Unfortunately, Borders have subsequently gone bust, as many big companies have over the years. And I always think, you know, once a company goes bust, especially a company that has a big following, people are going to want mementos of that company. And that is evident by some of the things that sell on eBay and some of the things that you'll see in my videos and other reseller videos. You know, people selling things from defunct companies or you know, sort of old organisations that don't exist. I mean, for example, in the UK, Thomas Cook will probably become one of those brands where if you've got like a Thomas Cook in-flight magazine or something like that in 10 years' time, it'll probably be worth some money because they're not a company that exists anymore, but they were kind of a big British institution. This is very much the same sort of story, but for the US. And obviously this item, as you can see, did go on global shipping to the US, which is not surprising at all. So this was an item that we got, I don't even know if they were free at the time or if it was one of those that was kind of a bag for life deal, pay £1 for it. But ultimately it was given to the business at no charge. It sold for £17.94, made £12.58 after shipping and fees, and has gone on the global shipping to the US. It sold really quickly as well. I was very surprised. It sold within a week, I would say, not, you know, certainly no more than that. So yeah, really surprised by that one. So do look out for things from, condition of course helps because it was immaculate, but do look out for things from kind of defunct companies. And if it's a company that's bigger internationally than they are domestically, then definitely make sure you've got your global shipping turned on, or you're offering some sort of international postage option. 9th of November, Polaroid KS3398A audio system remote. You probably may have seen this in an old haul video I did. I think it's actually the thumbnail on a haul video at some point, that remote, because it's a bit of a strange one. Cost $175 this in a bundle of remotes that I purchased at a car boot one Sunday. Over the summer maybe, yeah, I think over the summer at some point. Sold for $9.94, made £4.12 after shipping and fees. The buyer has actually opened a return request on that one though, saying it doesn't work. It definitely did work when I sent it. I'm thinking it probably isn't compatible with his equipment, so that one might be coming back, but it's not a big return to take a hit on. 10th of November. Salter number 46 family £6 scales. I'm getting quite into these sort of vintage, neo-vintage and vintage reproduction kitchen things, usable antiques, practical antiques and stuff like that. Something that I'm really starting to explore as an option. I'll never be an antiques dealer per se, and I'll never be somebody who deals in, loads of different ceramics and crystal and glass and stuff like that, because it doesn't have the interest factor to me so much. But again, down to the sort of things that people can use every day, things with moving parts and stuff like that. Yeah, definitely got an interest in that. So this is a reproduction, a modern reproduction, sort of 80s, 90s of a vintage scale made by Salter. In the originals, this was all cast iron. All of the body and everything of them was cast iron, and this dial was brass. In this sort of reproduction, this is all stamped metal, so it wasn't as heavy. It still had a reasonable weight to it, but it wasn't as heavy by any stretch. So just gave the brass pan there a nice polish up on the top, just to sort of give it a little bit of sheen, make it look a bit nicer on the pictures. And again, quite a quick seller. All of these scales that I've sold recently, I sold the Viking scales that you might have seen in one of my previous sales roundups there for October or November. The Viking scales there, they sold quite quickly, and these have also sold quite quickly. Probably a little bit longer than the Viking scales, maybe a couple of weeks, but they did sell reasonably quickly in the end. Cost $7.95. Sold for $68.94 and made $46.18 after shipping and fees, and that went on the global shipping program to Estonia, which is my first parcel out there actually, so thank you very much. Next, 10th of November again, vintage 1971 Maruman Halley piezo ignition lighter. I don't smoke. I used to smoke. I used to smoke cigars and stuff as well, because it was kind of the done thing in the circle I was in at the time, in the jewellery trade. It was sort of what everybody was doing at that point, so I used to smoke cigars, and of course cigarettes and whatnot as well. But I don't smoke and I don't drink anymore. But I do still have an interest in sort of accessories and accoutrements that go with that world, because I know it is still ultimately popular with some people, as much of a taboo as smoking kind of is these days. You know, it's still very popular in a lot of the world, and it's still very much part of people's kind of recreation and social culture, so who are we to refuse? This was a 1971 lighter, just a small engine-turned stainless steel nickel-plated lighter. It wouldn't have been stainless steel if it was nickel plated, but it was steel, nickel plated lighter. Boxed, working with the original receipt as well, which is what this piece of paper is here, and it's how I could specifically date it to 1971. And I think I actually effectively sold this. I was a bit of a nerd about it because this was sold in Hong Kong, so the price was in Hong Kong dollars. So I went and converted the price in Hong Kong dollars and then adjusted it for inflation since 1971. And essentially, $29.99 in today's money is roughly about a half of what it would have cost to buy new. So where I tend to work to sort of half of the retail price if I know the retail price of an item, I still kind of did that here through a really sort of nerdy and uncharacteristically mathsy way. So yeah, I also tested this, popped a bit of gas in it, made sure it lit and everything, and then also with anything like this, if you're going to sell it, you need to make sure that there is no gas in it when it's sent, so you need to run the gas out of it. Because if it is opened or anything like that and checked by Royal Mail or any kind of courier company or anything for any reason, and they find that there's gas in there, it will be sort of seized and destroyed. So yeah, no gas in there, and also made a note in the listing description to say it has been tested and is working, but it will be provided without fuel. So this one cost £4, sold for $29.99, made $17.22 after shipping and fees, and it's just kind of another little area that I will be sort of touching into a little bit more, I think, if I find those types of things. I'm kind of interested in them. I think as well it kind of appeals to a certain extent. I'm quite an outdoorsy person, as I've said before, so part and parcel of that is making fire, and part and parcel of making fire is lighters and things like that, so there's kind of an interest for me on that level as well. Plus I kind of have this sort of romanticized view of the kind of 1920s, 1930s, 40s, 50s chap, and all of that sort of associations with chap culture and stuff like that. So yeah, I kind of like all of that sort of thing for that reason. So yeah, that was that one. 10th of November, another Pentax Espio. This was the Pentax Espio 160 compact 35mm camera. I dropped a bit of a clanger with this one, in all fairness. Somebody contacted us saying, what was your lowest, what was the lowest price we'd accept on it, and I actually looked at the price on the sold listing of the other one that you'd just seen there, that you saw at the beginning of the video. So in my head, I had the price of this camera at $39.99 when it was actually $49.99. So when I hit them back with an offer at $34.99, they naturally bought it straight away because I'd given them like 15 quid off it. So if you're selling similar items, I guess the lesson here is if you're selling similar items, always make sure when you're talking to somebody, you've got it in your head that you're talking about the right one. Now, luckily, this was cheap enough and was a good enough profit item that I still made a reasonable profit on there, but certainly lost out to 15 quid of it through my own error, instead of just like a fiver, which is what I would normally offer off on something like that. So this one cost £5, sold for $39.94, made $26.66 after shipping and fees, which is still, a reasonable return on that one, definitely. 10th of November again. I spoke about this in the previous video, just about sort of briefcases and things like that. It's another sort of gentleman's kind of accoutrement, sort of type avenue thing that I'm looking at. Vintage office wear and stuff like that. I'm quite enjoying selling that as well. So this one costs $3.99, sold for $38.94. So I think I've said before, Samsonite are a really good brand to look out for. They're a French brand. They're world famous. Samsonite briefcases, modern and old, tend to be among the brands that command the best money from what I've seen, certainly. So yeah, cost $3.99. This one sold for $38.94 and made $15.35 after shipping and fees there. 10th of November, this is a vintage 1930s George VI post office box. So this is like a little metal box that's styled to look like a book, as you can probably just about make out on the pictures there. But it's got a slot in the edge of it here. And, well, actually on the underside, but it's got a slot in there, which has got little teeth on the slot. So you can roll up a note, a banknote or something like that. You can push it through the slot, and then the teeth won't let you get it back out. And it's got a key to unlock it. So this was kind of an early savings scheme, essentially. I think it was sort of... I don't know whether I've not looked fully into the actual nature of the savings scheme, so this is a little bit of speculation, but I imagine that it was something along the lines of it was devised by the government to get people saving sort of in the war and post-war years, just to sort of make sure people had a little bit of fallback money. And as everything was in those days, it was endorsed by the Crown, just to give it some extra sort of public appeal and gravitas in that sense. Now this one was a little bit different from a lot of the other ones that I'd seen on eBay and elsewhere online. You'll see quite a few of these around, and you'll certainly see a lot of them in red and green and blue. I think that's the main colours. You tend to see them in sort of a post-box red, a bottle green, and like a navy blue. But this one was gold. You can't really make out very well on that picture that it's gold, but it is gold. And there are certainly a couple of the gold ones out and about around there as well. The main difference with this one, apart from the fact that it's gold, is that not only did it feature the sort of portrait of King George VI, but it also featured Queen Elizabeth as well, the late Queen Mother. So it was a bit different from the others. So I don't know whether this was kind of their marriage year that this was released, or an anniversary or something like that. Like I say, the information that I could find on the specific years that these were produced was relatively limited. So I'm speculating to you now, but what I put in the listing was everything that I knew for a fact. So I don't kind of speculate in my listings particularly. But this one definitely dated from the 1930s, because that's George VI era. So yeah, and it had the key as well. I don't think it was the original key. I think it's been remade, the key, at some stage, or it's been recut, because it definitely looked modern by comparison. But it worked for the box, and not a lot of the ones that were on sale also at the time had keys with them. A lot of them were just locked, closed, and being sold as a bit of a curio. This was actually still usable. If you wanted to use this just to kind of keep little things safe or secure, little bits of cash or anything like that, it'd actually be a reasonably good option, because you'd slip it on a bookshelf and nobody'd ever really know it was there. It is only tiny, they're pocket-sized, so it is only a tiny thing, but still reasonably sturdy. Quite cool as well, it's got like a spring-loaded lid, so when you open it, it just springs open. There's a little retainer inside that you can get the cash out of, and then, close it up, it's good to go again. So a novel scheme, certainly, and something that, I guess is the modern sort of the precursor to the modern-day ISAs and stuff like that, in a way. So this one cost me £5. It was a car boot sale pickup. It sold for $31.94 and made $18.27 after shipping and fees, and also received positive feedback from the buyer on that one. Cool little item, something a bit different, and a nice sale. 10th of November, big box PC game, although it's a big box game, but it didn't have the big box with it, so it's a big box title without the big box, essentially. It's Ages of Mist, so this is Mist, Riven, and a few of the expansions and follow-ups and stuff like that as well. Mist is a sort of, not a role-playing game as such, is it? It's like a mystery kind of point-and-click sort of adventure type game, based on a series of books. It was really popular in its time. I remember playing the first Myst game on the PC, sort of I would say about 97, 98, something like that maybe. This edition was from 1999, and as I say, this is kind of a complete edition in that sense. So this one cost £1, sold for £13.49 and made £6.38 after shipping and fees on that one. 10th of November, still 10th of November was a really busy day. Calpol Vapor plug-in nightlight. This was a retail arbitrage item, and just as I always do, I'll quickly say retail arbitrage, for those that don't know, is buying new items from retail stores and selling it again for a profit. So you're still selling something that's brand spanking new to the customer, but you've just bought it from, you know, your supermarket on a final clearance or something along those sort of lines. And that's exactly what the case was with these. They were in one of the local discount supermarkets, and they were on a clearance in the discount supermarket, so they were £4.49 each. I had a few of them. I think this is actually the last one that sold now. So it sold for, cost £4.49, sold for £13.99, made £3.28 after shipping and fees. Not a big profit item, but not sort of a retail arbitrage fail necessarily either, because it did still make some money. 11th of November, Disney Traditions Original Mickey. I've spoken about Disney Traditions in previous videos. Jo's had a few that she's sold as well from her own collection. They're kind of a resin cast ornaments that are in this carved wood look style. This one was actually a retail arbitrage purchase from a local gift shop that was, they were either closing down, refitting, or just clearing out their Disney range and not dealing with the Disney stuff anymore. So this managed to pick up brand new for £10 in a final clearance there, which was great. One of my best sales ever, actually, certainly from early on, was from the same lot of stuff. I had a Monsters Inc. Mike and Sully Disney Traditions ornaments. The Monsters Inc. Mike wasn't particularly valuable, but the Sully was ridiculously rare. There weren't many of them around, and that actually ended up being one of my first international sales as well. That went to Japan with both of the models, and I think we made something to the order of about £100 profit on that sale. So that was a really good one early on, and that's kind of what kind of kept me looking at these Disney Traditions as time's gone on as well. So yeah, this one cost £10, brand new, sold for £45.94 and made £25.35 after shipping and fees on that one. 11th of November, the Bialetti Moka Express Stovetop Coffee Pot. There are a lot of these around, a lot of imitations, a lot of different manufacturers making them, and different qualities of them as well. They are, as the name suggests, it's a stovetop espresso boiler. So you put your coffee in the bottom, put your water in the top, boil it up on the stove, and it, you know, you've got a couple of shots of espresso. In this case, I think it gives you three shots of espresso. So as I was saying, there are a lot of different ones of these around. There are a lot of own brand ones around and a lot of off brand ones. What I would say, if you're going to pick these up, Bialetti are certainly one of the older manufacturers of them. They're one of the original manufacturers of them, and I think they actually sort of revolutionised or certainly popularised this 8-sided octahedral kind of shape. So they are some of the original ones. They're the ones that command good prices. They're cast aluminium, so they're quite weighty in a sense, even though they're aluminium, and aluminium's not particularly heavy. But you'll also see them just made out of stamped metal. Cheap ones, supermarket own brand ones and stuff like that, they're just kind of made out of pot metal, and they feel really cheap and tinny. I would avoid the cheap tinny own brand ones, and certainly look out, if you're going to buy them, get the Bialetti ones, get them made by, you know, if I don't know if they make one, but if for instance somebody like Krups makes one, you know, that'll be a good value one as well. So it's all about the name with these, in terms of the names are the ones that command the value. The cheap ones, they're cheap for a reason, and they have very little to no resale value in them. This one cost £4, sold for £24.94 and made £14.18 after shipping and fees on that one. 11th of November, spoken about these in the last video, Hobbycraft cross-stitch kits. Joe bought them last year from Hobbycraft with a view of making sort of Christmas and Easter cards and stuff out of them, and just didn't get around to it for whatever reason, probably because she ended up helping me early on with a lot of the reselling. But we're selling these kits off just on eBay now, and they are selling quite well. They don't make huge profits, as you can see. This one sold for a total of £4.94, made £1.82 after shipping and fees, but they are going out the door quite quickly. 12th of November, this is a Casio printing calculator FR1011. Vintage printing calculator, cost £2. This one, car boot sale pickup, sold for £29.94 and made £19.03 after shipping and fees. This one went on the global shipping program to Slovenia, which was a first parcel going out there as well, so thank you very much. 12th of November, we've got 1, 2, 3 cross-stitch kits going to the same buyer. So again, no cost price on these. They were owned items that were given to the business free of charge. Sold for $11.42 altogether and made $7.14 after shipping and fees on those. They are nice and easy to post out. They just go for a large letter, so they're quite good in that respect. Fujifilm FinePix S7000 digital camera, digital bridge camera. This is the 13th of November. This was my own old camera, to be honest, before I did fancy myself at one point as getting into photography a little bit, even though I said earlier on I'm not really interested in it. Well, this is how I kind of know that I'm not really interested in it, because I've had a little play at it. I know enough to be able to do eBay pictures and stuff, but I'm not interested in it as interested in it as I thought I was going to be at the time. So this is an old digital camera. Kind of gives you, it's a bridging camera because it's kind of the bridge between a standard sort of point and shoot digital camera and a proper professional digital SLR that you can change lenses on and stuff like that. So they do have a few more features than your standard compact digitals, but they aren't quite as feature packed as the DSLRs. So this had the camera. I actually bought this second hand as well. This isn't something that I owned from new or anything like that. It was second hand when I purchased it. So it had the camera, a battery charger, and a bag as well there. So it was a reasonably good little ready-to-go bundle. Sold for $44.94, made $36.64 after shipping and fees on that one, and had positive feedback from the buyer there as well. Again, on the 13th of November, this is another lighter. This is a vintage. I say vintage, it's probably sort of 70s, 80s, realistically speaking, but these days people are classing that as vintage, so I've kind of jumped on the bandwagon against my own sort of misgivings about using the term. Vintage Siwo Japan Onyx table lighter. This is the green Onyx that was just everywhere in everything in the sort of late 70s and early 80s. Ashtrays and kind of pen stands and desk tidies. It was just everything that you could think of if they wanted to try and give it a bit of a premium look and feel. They pretty much made it out of this green onyx with generally like a high polished brass, lacquered brass kind of fittings and stuff as well. And obviously that's what this lighter is here. So this was a table lighter, big chunky thing, about the size of, I would say, a can of Coke, something like that. Just for some perspective. Cost £2.50, sold for $19.94, made $10.23 after shipping and fees. Not a huge profit item on that one, but it was a good little sale, and it was, again, something that I picked up with the Maruman lighter that I got earlier on, and it's just kind of made me think a little bit more about these types of things as an option to sell. Sticking with the 13th of November, this is probably the quickest sale that I've had this month. I think this sold about 48 hours after it was listed. This is the Low Alpine Triple Point Waterproof Coat. Now, as you know, if you've been with the channel for a while, or if you don't, I'll tell you now, outdoor clothing is one of the things that I'm very interested in myself. This is kind of a personal interest that comes across into the reselling. And this is kind of using my own experiences and knowledge from personal interest rather than professional interest or anything like that. So I always say it's very easy to talk about stuff if you're enthusiastic about it yourself, and if you're interested in it yourself, you're going to have a much better chance of selling it because you can enthuse about the product. You can tell people about the product in terms that's relevant to them. So I know, for instance, that the Low Alpine Triple Point is a waterproof, windproof, and breathable fabric technology, which is much like things like Gore-Tex or High Vent or things like that. It's actually, Triple Point is particularly valued because it's considered to be quite good in terms of breathability. So it is a higher breathability than some of the other fabrics without sacrificing too much of the waterproofing. This one was in incredibly good condition. I actually put it on the wrong mannequin. I put it on the female mannequin, which is why it kind of looks a bit like it's hung like a bin bag. I put it on the female mannequin instead of the male one because reasons. But it still sold within 48 hours of being listed. Again, condition played into this quite heavily. It was an excellent condition coat. But also, another thing that I've recently found out is that Low Alpine aren't making apparel anymore. So they're not making coats or anything along those sort of lines. Low Alpine now pretty much just produce rucksacks, bags, and carrying and storage solutions. So there will be people out there that have had Low Alpine coats for years, been very, very happy with them and don't want to change, that now won't necessarily be able to buy them new. So Low Alpine, potentially a brand that are going to be not necessarily hugely valuable. You know, they're never going to hit sort of the kind of Berghaus type money and things like that, but low alpine I think are probably going to start to sort of see better returns on good quality examples, because there are people out there that are still wanting them. So this one cost £7, sold for £54.94 and made £35.46 after shipping and fees. Received positive feedback from the buyer on that one as well, which doesn't surprise me because the coat was absolutely immaculate. 13th of November, Timberland Merino Blend V-neck jumper. There was another one of these sold in a sales roundup video way back when. They were a purchase from a designer outlet, and they were a final clearance at the designer outlet. So they were a sale price on a sale price on a sale price, essentially. So they retailed. They were retailing in the outlet at $59.99. And on the final clearance they were £20, but the RRP was £90 on this jumper. So it's a merino wool blend, so it's really nice jumpers actually. Big size as well. This one was a 3XL. So this one actually cost £20. I sold it for the $59.99, which was the price that was on the outlet store tag that was still on the jumper. So I thought, well, I've only paid 20 quid for it. I can take that sticker off, and underneath is the $59.99, and happy days. That was what they sold for. So it made $25.73 after shipping and fees, and it went on the global shipping program to the Republic of Ireland. Next. 14th of November, just a little DVD sale. Celebrate Christmas with Mickey and Donald DVD. Brand new and sealed, charity shop pickup. Cost 99p, sold for $7.94, made $3.62 after shipping and fees. 15th of November, Ladies Berghaus Heartsock mid-layer fleece. This was another brand new tagged item. This was this a charity shop pickup? I think it was a charity shop pickup, to be honest with you. Brand new with the tags on it, so happy days. Whenever you find things like that, definitely worth looking them up, because you can still sell them, obviously, as new if they've got the tags on them. So this one cost me £7, sold for £29.99, made $14.22 after shipping and fees, and received positive feedback from the buyer. This, again, is one of those things, knowing about the layering system for outdoor wear and things like that, you know, knowing that it's suitable as a mid layer, you can fill in these drop down boxes and stuff like that as you're putting your item specifics in, and just give yourself more of a chance of being seen if you know that it's something suitable as a mid layer or an outer layer or a shell or a base layer, whatever. Having a bit of an idea about those things when you're listing them certainly helps things along. 15th of November, again, I think this might be the last item for the video, to be honest. This is a men's Lacoste wool blend zip front cardigan. Lacoste is a brand that I've only recently started picking up, in spite of being aware of them for many years, as a lot of people are. They're the logo with a little crocodile. I've never really thought about... It's never been a brand that's been on my own sort of personal radar to wear or anything like that, and not really something that I'd necessarily thought about reselling until I picked this cardigan up for £4.50. It felt like a really nice quality cardigan. So I thought I'll go and have a look into this, and I started looking into Lacoste knitwear, and the current equivalent of things like this is selling for around about £200 new. So I knew that they were going to be a reasonably good return on them for a resale, so I'm going to start looking at Lacoste a little bit more as a brand as well now. This one, as I say, cost £4.50, sold for £47.89. Made $31.37 after shipping and fees, received positive feedback from the buyer, and that was sold within a week as well on that one. So yeah, that was everything in terms of the items for the first half of November. That's the 1st to the 15th, all done. I'll bring the next video out in the next few days. Hopefully I'll have an announcement video in the next couple of days as well for some of other bits and pieces that have been going on behind the scenes, fingers crossed. But I'll bring the second part of this video out in the next couple of days, and you'll see some items in the second part that are absolutely astonishing profits. There are some really, really good items. I mean, there have been some good items in this part of the video, don't get me wrong. But in the second part of the video, there are some stunning profit items in there. So stay tuned for that one, guys. But as always, thank you for taking the time to watch today. If you did enjoy the video, please feel free to click the like button. If you didn't enjoy the video, similarly, give it a dislike, but don't just thumb and run. Let me know what you did and didn't like in the comments down below, and I'll try and tailor the videos in future to be more friendly to all audiences. And if you do enjoy the channel, feel free to subscribe and give the bell icon in the corner there a little tickle, just so that you know when I get you'll get notified when I upload any new videos. But otherwise, guys, thanks very much for watching. Have a great day, and I'll speak to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.